Marwan Bishara is Al Jazeera's senior political analyst. He joins us from Doha. So, Marwan, we've got this scene going on in the West Bank of escalating attacks on Palestinian villages and towns at a time when the US president is about to meet with the Israeli prime minister. Will the issue of the US recognizing Israeli annexation of the West Bank come up, do you think?
You know, most probably it will. They might not tell us about it. They might not make it official, but I'm sure the discussion have started. In fact, they've started since Trump first presidency. And if you remember back in 2018 to 2020, it was Trump that was reluctant. He did in the end recognize de facto annexation of East Jerusalem and the occupied Golan Heights. But when it came to the West Bank, he was still holding off until he could see what could be done more in terms of normalization in relation to the Arab world. And briefly, Sami, I tell you, it's still the same question. And I could summarize the entire relationship today between Trump and Netanyahu as follows. The two men agree on the endgame: annexation, normalizations of relations, displacements even. What they don't agree on is the means, the timing, and the priorities. In a sense that Mr. Trump wants it to be done through normalization relations, not through more war against Hamas and more war against Iran. That's what Netanyahu wants. Mr. Trump would like more emphasis on normalization of relations with Saudi Arabia, parallel to eventually some sort of annexations. So they agree on the end game. They don't agree on the means or the priorities.
I guess then one of the key questions is, can countries like Saudi Arabia agree to normalization, as some Arab countries already have, before the establishment of a Palestinian state? Can they give some kind of commitment or concession simply at stage 2 or 3 of a ceasefire deal in Gaza?
Sami, this is such an important question today. I think the elephant in the room, in every room, oval or otherwise, at the White House, is Saudi Arabia. There's no more important question facing US-Israel relations today and moving forward, whether it's on phase 2 and phase 3 of the ceasefire, whether it's on the future of the West Bank and Gaza and East Jerusalem, whether it's about the future of the region and the configuration and the new axes in the region following the war on Gaza. Saudi Arabia figures very high on each and every level. And I'll give you briefly why it's so important for Trump in particular. Already we're talking about $600 billion to $1 trillion of investments in the United States. We are talking about potential deals on oil. And we are talking about Saudi Arabia being probably de facto today the most important country in the Arab world, because other countries like Egypt and others decided they don't want that prominence, if you will. And because no country will have greater say in what goes on in Israel, Palestine moving forward than Saudi Arabia. And there is no country that Israel wants to normalize relations with more than Saudi Arabia. So at the end of the day, the Saudis looked at what happened the past 15 months and they're not impressed. They are not impressed by Israel's performance, and they are terribly disturbed by its genocide. So even the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who was, I thought, at one point was ready to make a deal with the United States based on, you give me so much and I will eventually normalize relations with Israel if you make promises and concrete steps on the question of Palestinian state, he's no longer that interested because of Netanyahu's performance in the war and because of Trump's prioritizing Saudi Arabia. So I think there is decision-making to be made in Riyadh, and I think the Crown Prince holds the trump card, So in a sense, he doesn't have to listen to Netanyahu. He doesn't have to accept Israel's conditions or diktats. He doesn't even need to listen to Trump. He holds the trump card, and it's Saudi Arabia that needs to lay out its conditions. It has a moral an historical role today to play. Hopefully, it will play it for its own people's sake and for its own sake and interests.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.